Christ is risen. Alleluia. This is the last session in the Gospel of Mark. Mark has described Jesus with power over demons, disease, sin, religious traditions, power over nature, and now even over death, the resurrection. The last stronghold of Satan is death. The final goal of all evil is death and destruction. And God's love has the goal of life. The writer of this lesson material suggests that you use this class time to talk about death and grief and caring for one another. That's quite appropriate. And if you do, please encourage your people to plan their own memorial service. And you may want to give them a card where they can start writing down their heart scriptures, those scriptures that they've relied on that have sustained their faith through the years. And maybe they want to put down heart songs, songs that somehow grabbed their heart and brought them into a close relationship with God. Planning your memorial service is definitely an act of love for your family. And if you do, just go on to remind them of a couple things. If they haven't done so, do a will. Choose a power of attorney. Write their end-of-life directives. And choose a medical power of attorney. I've been a pastor long enough. I know how significant those particular acts are. Now, you know your people well enough that if choosing to do, you know your people well enough to decide if talking about death and dying and compassionate ways to care would be helpful to your class at this point. If I were teaching the lesson, I would work around the theme of walking in the resurrection or living in the resurrection. And if you notice, if you follow these videos, you know of my bias. I want all of us to move from just information only, from doctrine only, to transformation of our life. The more we know of Jesus, the more of Jesus we can receive. And the more we know of ourselves, the more openness we can have to allow Jesus into our lives. Because the resurrection stories are so familiar, I think it's important to move from information to transformation as much as possible. And here are some ideas to structure your class. First, there are several thoughts about the resurrection story from Eugene Peterson's book on Living the Resurrection. Peterson says, the resurrection was a surprise even to those people who were most prepared. He goes on to say that no one did anything to prepare for the resurrection. It was God's work totally. And the first witnesses to the resurrection were marginalized people, namely the women. They were the first witnesses. They were the first evangelists. I have a story about Jesus showing up with a marginalized woman. Her name is Gwen. From 5 days old, when she was taken out of her home because her parents were alcoholic and they were not caring for her at all, she would have died. The rest of her life, she was marginalized in many ways, and most things you could describe as a living hell. She was adopted by a conservative Christian family. They went to church Sunday morning, Sunday evening, Wednesday evenings. She had to dress more modestly than the other girls her age. And when she moved into puberty, her adoptive father began to sexually molest her. She ran away from home. She got involved with various men. She got involved with drugs and alcohol, became addictive, and lost her 3 children. She got them back. She started coming to church, and her life was just one horrible mess. She would end up in a psychiatric hospital sometimes. Her housing was threatened because she couldn't make payments. She was threatened with eviction. She came into my office one day and she said, "Duane, I don't know what to do." And I said, "Gwen, I don't know either." I said, "Let's just take 10 minutes of silence and listen to see if God has any answers." So we sat there in silence. At the end of 10 minutes, I didn't have any answers. And I said, Gwen, well, what did you hear? Oh, I heard this old Elvis song, she said. I said, what was it? And she said, You'll Never Walk Alone. And I opened my eyes and I looked at her, and you could just see her eyes and mind roll. And she realized that Jesus, this living presence of Jesus, showed up in Elvis's song, reminding her that Jesus was with her, even in this dark time. And she walked out of my office completely different than the way she walked in. Her shoulders were back, she had a smile on her face and a sparkle in her eyes. And I've reminded her of that story various times. And she says, I know. Now, how would I structure this final story from Mark? I would take a good deal of time for people to share where they have seen Jesus show up in these last weeks. And you might even create a class litany where you could capture these showings, these appearances, in a brief phrase, followed by a response. God's love endures forever, from Psalm 136. For example, one person might say, I saw someone cross the street, sit down beside a beggar at a stoplight, and they started laughing. And I saw Jesus in that event. And the group could respond, God's love endures forever. So I would end this class with the words from the young man that was sitting in the tomb to the women. Go and tell my disciples that Jesus is going ahead of you into Galilee, and there you will see him. Into your week, and there you will see him. Into your life, and there you'll see him. Thank you for the time together these weeks. Go in peace.